Hi, everyone. I'm Dave Bovin. I serve as the Dean for the School of Business and Technology at Chipola College. And today we have our co-host, Ben Bridges, with us.
Glad to be here.
Today is our weekly tech topic. So we always got to focus on our topic, our Biz Tech talk at the end of the week. So this is our WTT session. And it's an exciting time on campus, Ben. It is neat just talking with students, many colleagues. It's interesting to see what brings someone to the campus, whether it's welding or nursing or education or just they know college is the right next step. And to develop this dialogue, as we have these functions and these gaming communities, these clubs, our business club, PBL, different activities we have, and we'll get to interact with students more and have that goal, have that momentum right now, it seems, to keep people on campus, to keep them engaged in our degree programs. We've had students, I know you've had colleagues in class, that start with one focus when they come to campus and then end with a bachelor's in business, the BSBA in management, say.
Right.
And you're wrapping up your information systems degree, and that's been a wonderful journey for you. You just kind of showed up because you love technology, and here you are.
Absolutely. And I'm very excited for that.
And so the thought of technology, all the energy that we have, a big reason is, one reason is a 3D printer and the passion that you bring to that. We've printed some nice stuff. So I guess let's just get started on what your thoughts are for 3D printing, and we'll look at filament in more detail today.
Right. I think 3D printing is an absolutely essential process in today's day and time. It is one of the most powerful tools for prototyping and for individual DIY projects, corporate projects, and really it just puts so much power into the hands of the creator to produce anything they want, from a 3D design to an actual product.
This NinjaFlex, this black NinjaFlex, is something that caught my interest as we were continuing with our discussion here on 3D printing and PLA, the filament used for 3D printing, or one filament used.
Right.
This got a lot of attention, this NinjaFlex. And it's interesting to think how you just mentioned prototyping, how we can kind of test out and model to see how it might look. Totally different filament. This is rigid and hard, and to see how soft and how you can crush it, it keeps its shape. We actually went and presented to a business group, and there were people interested in creating some prototypes for different functions that we wouldn't even thought of. So it's neat how just modeling something that you can, touch and feel, how you can maneuver around, can lead to other ideas.
Right, absolutely. So today I would like to talk about materials and the choices that you would have to make with your printer in regard to that. So we were just talking about the NinjaFlex, and NinjaFlex is one of the most interesting filaments because it is both a flexible filament and an elastic filament. So some people have printed shoes with this, and some people have printed, we've been working on a boat bumper and things like that. And in fact, we'll circle back to the boat bumper a little bit later, talking about material design, or material choice rather. And there's so much thought that goes into every little aspect of 3D printing.
So you brought some filaments with us today. I think this Protopasta is one that Andrew is kind of our lead right now on printing.
Right.
And just this morning he was talking about our Protopasta.
Yes.
That he says that actually is a high quality PLA.
Yes.
He's very happy with that one.
It's one of the more expensive brands of 3D printing filament, but it has an extremely this is easier to see. It has an extremely creative set of different materials. I know that Andrew is printing with stainless steel filaments right now. And they aren't actually stainless steel, but they are full of the powder of steel. And after printing, it gives a steel, you can polish it and make it look like actual steel, and it has a weight that is similar to steel.
It seems like the more precise you can get with the filament, maybe on how you heat it, how it's modeled, and how you adjust it on the printer itself. I know what he just printed just recently with the metallic filament. It was quite smooth. It wasn't rigid. Had a really good final deliverable.
Yep. And one of the really big things with 3D printing is your print settings. Print settings can really, really make or break whether or not your printer successfully finishes its print. And this is also extremely dependent on your material choice. For example, this NinjaFlex would print hotter than something like this PLA, just because of the different specific heats of the material and how it reacts to heat and extrusion. Another thing I would like to talk about with materials is why you should choose certain materials over different ones in certain scenarios. For example, we have a truck here. It's a Ford Raptor, I believe, and it is printed with nylon. Now, nylon in 3D printing is considered as one of the stronger filaments, and compared to PLA, it is ridiculously strong. PLA is a more biodegradable filament, but it kind of lacks some strength in the long run because of its biodegradability. And nylon makes up for that with its strength. And this was also printed in nylon. And it can hold a pretty surprising amount of weight for how small it is.
Now, sometimes the PLA selected may be just based on color.
Right.
For example, Andrew did a really great job, phenomenal job of printing these roses. So this vase has like a nylon type of texture to it. It's a nice design as a vase might be designed. And then these roses, as you know, the stems, the leaves of the stem, and then the rose itself were all individual prints and then assembled. So that's fantastic. And this was actually a student request, and we have it on display in Building Z on our second floor if you get a chance to stop by. We'll need to put it on our Instagram if we haven't already.
Absolutely, yes. A few more I would like to go over. We showed you this earlier. This is not the stainless steel filament that we were discussing, but actually it is a conductive PLA. So in essence, it is a electricity conductive material, meaning that you could 3D print capacitive touch points, you could 3D print a 3D circuit, although I don't know how that would work, but that would be very cool.
Right, tread lightly.
Right. So this actually can conduct electricity, and people use it in projects where electricity is necessary, especially in custom shapes and sizes. I know that Adafruit created a project on their website where it was like, you know, those drum pads that musicians play with? You would print the touch points with this, and then you would hook it up to an Arduino, and then you would have like a drum pad, and all it would do is it would take the capacitive touch of your finger and conduct electricity, and it would trigger as a touch point.
So, wow, a couple of thoughts off that, Ben. You mentioned printing like components. Something we're working on right now is we have part of our gaming community, those who like to cube. We're going to actually have an international exercise on campus for cubers coming up for those designs, especially for the Rubik's cubing device, I guess is one way to word that. So this is just a generic cube right here, and we're actually working on printing not these ones that are twisted. Those would be really hard to model.
Right.
Very hard to model. But ones that are just a traditional square cube. So if one breaks, that we could actually plug and play and reassemble it.
Right.
So that's a neat goal to see how well we can go about assembling cubes ourselves. Now you mentioned this protopasta, and I know it's one that we like. Makes me think of food. I know we work so hard, and we haven't printed this cheeseburger, but we could. And there are some groups that are actually using filament that's edible. You know, printing pancakes. I can't wait. I mean, wow. I would probably have to stop this show and eat that cheeseburger. That looks so real and so good.
Right. And I've seen videos online of people printing steak as well. Wow. It's essentially, it's different from a normal 3D printer in the sense that it's almost like a syringe, and as it goes over, it's still hooked up to servo motors like a normal printer would, and it essentially extrudes like a paste, and then they put that on a stove and it cooks into a steak.
Wow, thinking about steaks I've had recently and then what you just described, Ben, I think I would need a lot of barbecue sauce for that. A lot of steak sauce.
That's true.
So we were talking about this NinjaFlex and then a boat bumper. So we actually met some business people. Is this a good time to talk about that?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
And one of the things they noted, we mentioned this in a previous episode, of this not being light friendly, that could actually degrade and not last as long. So we worked on using this filament, and if you want to tell the audience about this, it has the same structure. You can collapse it, it keeps its shape, but it's more UV friendly.
Right. So we have the traditional Ninja Flex, which is just a black, elastic, and flexible filament. And I think this is tougher, just because of the elasticity of it. It can bend, it can really, you could run this over with a semi-truck, I feel like, and it would not be damaged.
Yeah, we've stood on it and it keeps its shape.
Right.
Yeah.
And but we had an issue with UV resistance. Everyone knows that the color black absorbs the most light. And if you were to shine a laser at a black piece of paper, it would catch on fire, depending on the laser. But with white, it reflects light, and that's why a lot of boats are colored white. And we figured that a flexible filament that is similar to the Ninja Flex, this is actually also of that brand, but it is called Cheetah. It prints quickly, and it is a semi-flex, meaning that it is kind of flexible, and it flexes with pressure, but it's not completely elastic like our traditional Ninja Flex. And so we figured that this would be a much better option for producing a boat bumper, because it would be in the sun all day, it would be exposed to salt water or fresh water all day, and it would need to flex upon collisions.
So one of the benefits of 3D modeling is a chance to actually do prototypes, as Ben talked about when we began our segment, to test those out. So you don't have to actually work with a contracted company, travel a far distance. We do this just in our office environment, right in on a desk, and we just make sure it's a safe working area, and we use a laptop, we model, and we print, and then we adjust. So just the transition of a prototype to something actually that we could work with to potentially a final product with the material. I mean, it's not actually a boat bumper yet, but we're ready to now model a boat bumper and try it out.
Right.
Shows you what you can do with a 3D printer just in an office or at home type
Absolutely.
of space. So. Well, fantastic. Anything else you'd like to add on Protopasta or PLA? I'm actually been eyeing this cheeseburger. I'm getting kind of hungry.
Me too. I think that's all for my thoughts.
All right. Well, Ben, thank you. And thanks, everyone. We enjoyed this segment with you.
Thank you.